Welcome to another Gaslec podcast. I'm Sean and I'll be your host this week. This week's episode, I want to talk to you about the history of how I got to where I am today. So it's a bit of I'll try and keep it a bit brief. So sorry if it jumps around a little bit in the video here. So there's going to be a little bit of, there's going to be an audio side, obviously predominantly. There will be a little bit of a practical side. So if you're listening on to an audio only, I'll be as best I can to describe what I'm doing. But predominantly this will be audio. But there is a video part. So if you want to see me acting a goof, then watch that onto YouTube as well. So the history of Sean and Gaslec. So back in 92, I left school in Gillingham with, unfortunately, only one GCSE. So in electronics. So I wasn't very academic. I didn't really sort of fit in with that mould of all that that sort of side. But I liked electronics. It was very black and white. So it either works or it didn't. And why it didn't work, you've got to find out why it doesn't. And so I really like that, and the problem solving and the thought processes that go behind it. And I think that's really a good skill that I do have now, moving forwards in what we do here at Gaslec, and me personally as running the business and doing what I do here. So I went into college and doing electronics, left there in 94. And then bumbled around with sort of family members working, doing satellites and aerials. And then in 1998, I went and worked for Sky Television. And back in 1998 was the big launch of something called Sky Digital. And I think that was on the October, 1998. It was launched. So I joined in I think it was the 4th of July. I think it was 6th of July, 4th or 6th of July. Back in 1998, I joined the company when they were only doing analog, and then went forward through. So and did that until 2003. So I renovated a few houses and got a bit of practical experience in doing kitchens and bathrooms to a level, and a bit of plumbing as well. And it sort of really intrigued me. There's so many different parts and items to it. So when I left Sky, I went and worked for a guy over in Sittingbourne. He's passed away now, unfortunately. I found out the other month. But I went and worked for a guy called Bob. And I was doing kitchens and bathrooms and learned so much from them. So going back a little bit, about 95, 96, around that sort of time, I went to Canary Wharf, and there was a guy standing. It was a bit of a Jack the Lad, a bit of a geezer. I had to fit a satellite dish for him on a balcony. We had to do it on a Sunday, cloak and dagger. You weren't allowed a satellite dish. And remember, this is back before Sky Digital. So the dishes back then were a lot bigger. And I remember speaking to him and saying, so how did you get to where you are now? It was something, I can't remember the exact number. It was something like £2,000 a month rent for this flat. He's probably paying more than that a week now. But back then it was about £2,000 a month, and it was astronomical numbers. I said, how did you get yourself to this point here? And he said, what I did is that I stood outside the London Stock Exchange, and I read some books because I saw these people earning loads and loads of money. I read some books on how it works and the money and, the terminology and stuff like that. And then I printed up a CV, and he said he stood outside in a borrowed suit with an envelope with his CV saying, I'm willing to work for nothing for the next 6-12 months, whatever it was, to learn the trade through a reputable business. But he's done all the homework himself. Remember, this is pre-Google, pre-internet, so he physically got books and read up on it as best he could. And then done all his research, got a job. And then he got his job and then went and worked for this company, however it was, and then he was on the big bucks, then got the flat, and then obviously all these entrappings, whatever you would call it. But yeah, then he got all these, then that's how he started making his money. And that sort of stood with me, but I didn't really think about it, be honest. And then when I then started in the kitchens and bathrooms, I went up to Bob, and it was sort of towards the end of time with Sky. And I said, I'll come and work for you for nothing. And I'll come and work for free on my days off and with after work and stuff like that. And I want to learn how to fit kitchens and bathrooms and the plumbing side. I want to learn all of that stuff. I'm going to do the night school stuff, yeah, but I also want the hands-on skills of learning, and I'll do it for nothing. No tricks, no catches. I'll do it for free. And it took a few companies, but Bob said, yeah. So I ended up joining on with Bob and going through that journey with him. And I learned a lot. There was a lovely guy called Tony Green. I saw him a couple of months ago. Tony, lovely fella. He's still kicking about. but he was a little bit on the poorly side back then. And then he told me actually Bob had passed away a couple of years ago. So which is sad really, because it's all part of my journey. I know he sort of let me down, but at Christmas and stuff back in that sort of 2003. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all water under the bridge. But I didn't realise I took that sort of mindset of that other guy. I can't remember what his name was. Of actually, let's learn. Let's spend my bit of time learning. So I bought some old kitchen worktops. I had offcuts of worktops. I bought some tools, and then I was chopping up bits of worktop in my garden, make loads of sawdust to learn how to do the mitre joints. And then I was getting scrap bits of plumbing stuff and learning how they sort of come together and how we can sort of joint them up and become better at what we're doing. This is, I say, before YouTube, before all of the internet stuff that we've got nowadays. And that's then I learned that side. And then I went through my career of doing the kitchens and bathrooms and found it was actually quite difficult to try and make quite a good success of it. So I was like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bite the bullet and do my gas. So I had plenty of experience. I can't say that I was moving boilers and fitting boilers and getting other people to sign them off, because that's a no-no in gas safe. So that didn't happen, wink, wink. But I had plenty of experience of running pipes to items and, getting water going and making sure it didn't have any leaks and making sure it was nice and neat and tidy. So that's what I will say. So went off and done my gas, must be about 8 years ago now, 8, 9, 10 years ago, something like that. So it was a good few years ago, went off and done my gas, and then that's then when Gaslec was born as it come through. So then from there, I was then like looking up, I had a couple of people that I could call upon, which were lovely. I still speak to them now, lovely people, just for some help and advice and tips as I was coming through. Always being humble, always referring to the manuals from on the boiler side of things. The general plumbing it's fairly basic stuff, to be honest. When it comes to fault finding, it's water in a pipe. Is it moving? Yes, no. What's stopping it? Ultimately, it's just those basic sort of questions that you ask yourself. Is it pouring out the end? If it's not pouring out the end, why ain't it pouring out the end? Just easy stuff. But from then the gas side, I was then looking up all the boiler manuals. And of course, then we come into the YouTube era, so we can watch YouTube videos on people that have come across these similar situations before and gone from there. So that's a little bit of my back history of how I got into where I am here today. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but just to make it nice and brief. And what I'm trying to get to is we constantly have all these younger people wanting work experience, wanting to get into the industry and apprenticeships. Now, I don't think we're a big enough company to be taking that on, certainly from the apprenticeship level at the moment, but I'd love to, because I love giving back, and I'd love to see good people do well. That's what I do like to see. So I just want to give a little bit of a tip to the youngsters or the people coming into the industry of an older age like myself. So I'm just going to give a little tip. So there's plenty of stuff on YouTube. I might even do some videos myself on jointing methods, and I can't do it in here because we've got a fire alarm system and we're a part of a little block, so if I did any soldering in here, it would set the alarm off and take out the whole estate, which is about 42 units, and all the alarms would be going off, so I can't do it in here. But for a Sunday evening as it is here, that's why I'm not wearing my usual attire, so I'm getting this recorded while it's nice and quiet. So what we have is, very simply, an old piece of copper pipe. So if you're wanting to get in, now, if someone come to us here and says, I'm practicing, I want to become a plumber, I just need a bit of old scrap material, we'll dig a bit out. We haven't got loads, but we might be able to dig a bit out, or go down the scrappies, down on the business parks that are weighing in the scrap copper. And if you go and ask them whether you can, for a few pounds, go and buy some bits of 15, don't worry about your 28, your 22, your 35, your 42s. Don't worry about the big sizes. Just practice on the easy stuff, on the 15s. So, and then you can then get your jointing sorted. So another little tip, buy your own tools. You know where you are with your own stuff. You get used to it. Get a tool bag. Ask all your aunties, uncles, your family members. Every birthday, I don't want a pair of trainers. I don't want a new tracksuit. I'm not interested in bits and pieces. I want some tools. And then start building up your own tool set. So you have your rotary cutters. Now, I'm a bit old and boring. So these days, I tend to use this, which is my Milwaukee spinner cutter. So this does 15, 22, 28. So, and that will then spin around there. So it's a bit noisy, I do apologise. So what I'd then say is, get you a bit of old scrap 15. So this is a bit worn and weathered. It's a little bit dirty and a bit dumb. So then get your piece of pipe, and then on here, I'll then just we'll get it cut. So it's just spinning now. Mind your fingers, a bit noisy, and then that'll drop off onto my desk. That's done. I'll do a video on how that all works later on. And of course, now we've got 2 bits of pipe from the one piece of pipe. Now and then, so modern pipe cleaning materials have really come on. So we started to use these little abrasive strips. You can just use like a what do you call it? Like a pan scrub, a green pan scrub. I know I do have a couple of those in my tool bag. So you haven't got to spend big money on these little abrasive strips. And there we are. Look at that, bright as a button. They come through on both sides. And then go to Screwfix, get them nice and cheap, or down to Plumbers Merchants, and buy some elbows. And there you are. And now you've got a piece of material that you can now practice your soldering on. So you can practice with your heat, you can practice with your fluxing, and you can practice with your soldering, and to make that as nice and neat as possible. Now, I'll do another video on that there. But what I'm trying to get across to you is to get a piece of old copper pipe, build up your own tool bag, build up your own stuff, your blow lamp, your gas, your flux, your solder. Get hold of that. Get some old bits of pipe. Buy a set of pipe benders. Get some pipe and practice bending it, because you can always cut off the bend if it's a bit rubbish, and then resolder a bit on, and then weigh in what you've bought from the scrappies, the bits of rubbish that you've already bent up, and then you can get some money back from that. So it's not costing you all the money. So if you spend 20 quid on scrap bits of old 15 pipe, well, you're giving it back to them, and you're probably going to get another tenner back. So, you know, it's not complete dead money on that, but you really need, and probably the biggest phrase of it all, you need to invest in yourself. So invest in the time, invest in the practice, and watching the videos, and committing really to coming into the industry. So that's my little tip for you guys. So whether you're older like myself, or whether you're a young pup coming through, doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. We've got the technology, we've got the podcast, we've got the YouTube, the tickety-tocketies, the Instagrams, and all that old chestnuts. So don't think that you've got to be doing these fantastic boiler room, oh my God, like pinch perfect, in, you know, soldering, all the rest of it. Everyone started somewhere. So just remember, when you cut that down, and you've done your solder and you're happy with it, you can just cut it there, and then just restart again. But just remember, when you're using a blow lamp, heat will travel. So don't burn yourself. Wear your gloves, wear your eye protection, your basic PPE stuff. But I'll do another video on that anyway. It's dark, it's Sunday. I ain't going to do it today. But yeah, and then use a set of grips, use a clamp, a vice or something along those sort of lines, and then just sort of out of situ, don't set fire to nothing, but just remember, just stay hot for a while, and then just clean it up. But invest in yourself and practice. So when you come knocking on, say, our door here down at Gaslec Towers, and you say, oh, actually, I've done this, I've done that, and here's some pictures of stuff I've been practicing on, it really will separate you from the others. You know, if you're just that 1% different, then that's what it'll be for you to get your foot in the door. Because we every single day we get people approaching us with generic emails, generic CVs coming through, and we get the odd person ring us up, which is like, wow, you know, someone's actually made a telephone call to us to inquire. But if you can imagine, you knock on the door and you say, oh, actually, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. Look what I've been doing. I've got some pictures of me bending. I've got some pictures of me soldering. I'm really sort of investing in myself here. I'm really committed to doing this. I'm not just playing lip service and doing some emails to keep my parents happy. And that will really, really go a long way. I'm not saying it will with us, but it certainly will with somebody. So obviously this is a global podcast that goes out to the whole world. So it's not just here down in Kent as well. So anyway, guys, I hope you found that interesting. One day I might even do a podcast going into a bit more details of my life journey. But that's it, really, sort of a bit of a synopsis there. Okay, guys, you take care, and thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.